Is in France this week. This is part of a visit to highlight the plight of unaccompanied children living in the so-called Calais Jungle Camps. She's with the Labour MP Yvette Cooper and Conservative David Burrows. The Foreign Office says it has 2 permanent members of staff helping process asylum applications, but the charity Save the Children says it's still going too slowly. Heidi Allen joins me now. Hi there, Heidi.
Good morning, Dotty.
So you were in the Calais camps yesterday. What kind of thing did you see?
Well, as you perhaps know, I went a few months ago, and we went primarily to compare and see whether things had improved. The state of facilities is no better. There's some small improvement with some of the volunteer organisations that have kind of managed to hook up with some of the bigger organisations like Médecins Sans Frontières and are sharing facilities, which is good. But that's still all being done on a voluntary basis. There are clearly less unaccompanied children from areas fleeing war such as Syria, etc. But there are still some that are waiting, and although their paperwork may be in train, there was one young boy we spoke to who was approved, if you like, in terms of paperwork, and he's got family in North London, but he's still been there for 6 weeks and nothing has happened with him, and he's completely and utterly on his own with no one to care for him.
So how has that happened? How is it that there are children with family links in the UK whose families have ended up in the UK without them?
Well, and this is the big problem, and it's not just children who have family in the UK. It could be Germany, elsewhere in France. Calais seems to be the ultimate destination that people reach, but the French child safeguarding in the camps is simply non-existent. There just isn't any. There are some facilities finally being set up by a French charity, but they just don't seem to care that these children are living underneath a motorway bridge with no one to look after them. And there are some very nasty, aggressive gangs of adult males from all over the world who are, economic migrants, not fleeing Syria. And these poor boys are in the middle of all of this. These poor children, and it's not acceptable. It really isn't.
So you're saying that the French authorities aren't doing enough job at this. What do you want to happen? Should the UK government be getting involved?
Well, they have already, to be fair. And I spoke to James Brokenshire, who was the immigration minister prior to the reshuffle. I met him a number of times with David. And, he did explain to us how difficult the diplomatic relations are between France. It's not our land. We can't just go and do what we like there. But, we have to do better than that. We have to put politics and diplomacy, absolutely remembering why we're doing it. It's, those children should be our priority, not about whose land it is.
I mean, this is the thing, though, Heidi, and this is the opposition that you might meet from many of your constituents. I mean, this is a problem in France. Why is it the UK's problem? We don't own Calais.
No, we don't. You're absolutely right. And the general management of the site totally and utterly has to fall to the French. I suppose it becomes our problem for 2 reasons. Because our lorry drivers, trying to get back through the tunnel and across, are nightly having a gauntlet trying to avoid running over people, desperately trying to clamber on these things. It's hell for them. So that's one reason why it's our problem. And, then people do come through the tunnel illegally. But it's also because some of these children do have family in the UK. And once we have identified them and found that they have a home in the UK, then for me, we should be taking responsibility there and then, not just leaving them abandoned in these filthy, dangerous environment. We should be taking charge of and safeguarding them then, not just leaving them while the paperwork gets sorted.
Of course, you're a Conservative MP, Heidi, and it's your Conservative colleagues who dithered on the issue of unaccompanied children several months ago. And it's a Conservative-led Foreign Office that is now, according to you, being too slow to process these children. So what are your colleagues doing wrong?
Well, this is exactly why we went, because we wanted to, rather than just, assuming how things were, we wanted to go and see it for our eyes, because we found this last time. We also went to Lesbos, myself and 2 of my female MP colleagues. And when you come back and talk to ministers with evidence that you've seen with your own eyes, it's so much more powerful. So that's what we'll be doing. The new immigration minister, I believe, has already been in touch with my office to arrange a meeting. So I'll be doing that as soon as we're back. Parliament, as you'll know, we're still off for 1 more week, but as soon as we're back, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. They need to understand that the situation is perhaps not quite the same as they're reading in ministerial briefs.
And what about the unaccompanied children who don't have family in the UK? Do you feel this country should be taking more of them?
I think the government has already, not necessarily from Calais, because I think what was very, very clear to me yesterday in Calais, that there are now just a handful of children who have a legal right to be in the UK. And, Calais is a nasty place. It needs shutting down. It's because the situation has been hasn't been dealt with, but it's, allowed to grow and grow and grow. It's a dangerous place with an awful lot of people who shouldn't be there. We need to extract that handful of children. We're talking less than 100 that have a right to be in the UK. And then, as the government has said it will do, we should concentrate on helping vulnerable children who are still in the region in refugee camps before they make that treacherous journey. So I think that's the right way around. But there's just those few children that are left lingering, and it can't be difficult, so difficult just to extract them and bring them to the UK. It really can't.
I mean, estimates that it costs £50,000 a year to look after a refugee child in this country. Can we afford it?
I think it's up to individual local authorities, and that's what the government's rightly done, I think. Instead of setting, quota, local authority by local authority, it's come to each one and said, what can you manage? And yes, public finances are stretched, but the beautiful thing in Cambridgeshire is we've had an awful lot of very generous people, volunteers come forward, offering to be trained up themselves as foster carers, offering to take these children into their own homes. So it doesn't always have to be the public purse that helps. And that's why this is, just such an opportunity. As usual, the British public, the British public that are out there in Calais feeding these children and trying to look after them and educate them. We are so generous. And if we can find it between the public and the private purse to care for these children, then I absolutely think we have a moral duty to do that.
Heidi, thank you for coming on the show this morning. We could talk about this